What is up, everyone? It is me, DevilNeverCry, and we're tackling all of the boss trials on Ninja Gaiden 4 here, on our way to unlocking the Dark Dragon Blade and the Finder or Wielder of Darkness, I believe, trophy / achievement. We basically have to go through all of the bosses here, and once we do so, we'll unlock it, which is great, or weird, however you want to look at it. I'm going to do my best here to kind of just talk you through what it is that I'm doing, and then, generally ranting about Ninja Gaiden, talking about it, and the like. So, if you've been keeping up with some of my Master Ninja coverage of this, this kind of seems like child's play. We're playing on standard difficulty. That's all you really need to do to unlock the Dark Dragon Blade. Which leads me to my first point. There's not really much of an incentive to do this on Master Ninja besides the bragging rights of having a good rank and a higher position up on the leaderboard. It would have been great if they sadistically lock the Dark Dragon Blade behind completing this on Master Ninja mode. I probably would have been frustrated about it, but delicious tears, right, as they say. And just even in general, the whole Dark Dragon Blade sort of scenario is weird. They give it to you in the final mission, and then they take it away from you, and then they tell you to go and beat a bunch of bosses like it's a challenge. I don't know, it doesn't necessarily sit right with me. Most action or character action games don't typically tend to do that. I understand wanting to tease things, but then to just take it away from you and tell you to go do this again. I would have much preferred it if they were just like, hey, have it after Master Ninja mode has been completed. I think we get the S rank there. That DDO Commander just got absolutely smoked, but, as I said, this is standard difficulty, so a lot of this is going to be like child's play. And we're seeing Goliath up next. The reason I say this isn't really much of a challenge is because they just give you a bunch of items to use. So you're basically playing through these bosses like you would be on story mode. If they gave you no items and they were like, here, go have fun, I'd definitely consider it much more of a challenge. But, considering all the tools you have access to, it's not really a challenge. And this is just using Yakumo. If you want to use Ryu, who does a lot more damage, considerable amounts of damage, particularly when you abuse the Nimpo system, it's very much night and day. I've been playing through Master Ninja with the standard characters, Yakumo for Yakumo levels, Ryu for Ryu levels, and the disparity between the two characters and just how much damage that Ryu outputs is crazy, if I'm honest. It makes me ponder why I didn't just use Ryu from the get-go. But we move on to I think this is Sanzeon. I don't actually know all of the bosses' names off by heart. This first phase isn't too difficult, as I get absolutely slapped there. The second phase does throw a few new moves in there for us to contend with, but again, this is not one of the bosses I'd consider tough. You just have to make sure that when he throws out his lasers or he glows red, you hit him with a bloodbind mechanic, which I struggle to do there. That will knock him out of the animation and basically leave them vulnerable. The only boss for reference that gives me a little bit of trouble has to be Achilles, and that's just because of the fact that he spawns, extra ads basically, who are all just as lethal as he is, and he has that ridiculous grab with his vortex move, which can be annoying if you don't deal with it properly. It's basically a move that kind of makes you go on the defensive instead of the offensive, where you can have to bide your time and pick your moments, which is something I like to struggle to do because I'm very much all about offense instead of defense. This move, we don't even have to dodge, if I'm honest. You can just hold block. But like with almost all of this boss's attacks, you can just block them all and you'll be fine. I do hit him with a UT here though, but look at the amount of damage that's not doing. For considering, imagine I had took the risk to charge that up. It seems kind of concerning. And then we hit him with a couple of the Kage Hiruko moves here, and we're just taking massive chunks of health off. It's a weird system. It's a weird system. But how are we finding Ninja Gaiden 4? Where does it sit amidst the pantheon of Ninja Gaiden games? I think the honeymoon period now is, I would say it's almost over, but it's not even been 10 days since this game dropped. Time flies. But something that's concerning, I guess, is that the game's sales figures actually haven't been showcased or talked about. I'd love to think that this game's done really well financially just because I want to see more Ninja Gaiden titles. But it is a bit concerning that, not necessarily Team Ninja, but Microsoft aren't really saying anything. This isn't really much of a Team Ninja game, I believe. It's Microsoft who's handling publishing and basically everything. And it did launch, I believe, on Game Pass day one. I want to say I'm not really much of a user of Game Pass, so I genuinely would not know as we face off against everyone's favorite. Is it Sonic Adventures 2? Is that everyone was cracking jokes about it? The Chaos Monster. Just goes to show my lack of Sonic knowledge. I tapped out, I want to say after Sonic Generations, but Sonic Colors definitely did play a big part in my childhood. That was a fun game. Tried to go back to it recently. Handles like ass, if I'm honest. Probably just me not being too accustomed to standardized control schemes, but it's it's a good trip down nostalgia lane that was. So this boss again, Kage Hideko's your best friend. He keeps trying to do that move, and we just keep breaking out of it with a Bloodbind move, and he keeps getting stun locked. We get a cheeky ultimate technique here, but then now he's going to go off into his second phase, where he gets his tongue out, and he starts freaking on people. He spawns a couple of these enemies, which I believe are actually called Draugrs, but you can kind of ignore them. The only annoyance is the fact that they like to spit poison at you. And they like to pull lock on, which is another one of my grievances with this game. There was a sequence here when I was playing this on Master Ninja, and it actually caused me to die, but the amount of difficulty I had getting my lock on back onto the boss was just, horrible. Unforgivable. That's the term I was looking for. Completely unforgivable. As I pop a bunch of items like candy there and just keep on my merry way. We get the Berserk mode, and then we clean up. We clean up here. This isn't really much of a challenge. He's one hit away, and then he's down and out for the count. But yeah, the amount of just fuckery with the camera and the lock on. I wonder if there's ever going to be an action or a character action game that just nails it. I don't think there ever will be, just because of how the genre is set up. What did we get here? I think we must have got a lower rank because I used a lot of items. Yeah, it baffles me that I can go through something without any deaths, using a bunch of items and come out with a mediocre rank, and then suffer a death and use no items basically, and we'll get a decent rank. It's quite strange. DMC5 went through a similar thing, I believe. The ranking in that game is miserable, but yeah. I'm not really somebody who was into the karma runs of previous Ninja Gaiden titles, so I'll probably lean on you guys in the comments to let me know whether you think the karma system in this game is better, whether it's a downgrade or an upgrade. As we have the tank boss, very much an upgrade on DMC2's infested tank, an infested chopper. There's my impatience getting the better of me as I try and hit it whilst it's in an attack animation. But yeah, I'm curious to see where this is going to land in people's rankings. I think, honestly, I don't know if we're ever going to get some form of a Sigma for this game, or a black version. We are going to get the Two Masters DLC, which we have little information on, but it is quite weird how they've announced it, obviously, before the game's even launched, which hopefully adds a whole bunch of basically weapons to Ryu is what I'm hoping. I know we got at least one confirmation, but I want more. And if anything, I think the Sigma version of this game, or the black version of this game, is likely just going to include DLC and maybe a couple of tweaks, which I'm hoping it's not. I'm hoping it's like a complete revamp. If not, the community's basically going to do it. I know Ninja Gaiden 2 White, I believe, of both edition from the Master Collection alongside the remake, two separate mods, where the communities really sort of pull it together when it comes to making the defining sort of Ninja Gaiden 2 experience. So I'm curious to see whether 4 will get that treatment. What do we get here for a rank? We got a B rank. Okay, B's for Ayane best girl. No, Sayori best girl. Who knows? Maybe team both. That's the one. Speaking of Ayane, what was even the point of her even being in this game? As we move on to, is this the Teotol? Toyota Tires is what I call him. Toyo Tires, that's the one. What was the point of Ayane even being in the game? If not for just, serving as illustrious eye candy. To have her basically show up and Yakumo tell her to fuck off, literally, at least in the English dub. For her to do very little and then disappear seems like a missed opportunity. Makes me wonder again if we do get a Sigma or a Black Edition, maybe we're going to have Ayane as a playable character. Who knows? I know some people were complaining about her redesign, but you know, considering that it's been like a couple of decades since I think Ninja Gaiden 2, the community's been trying to put together a timeline. She doesn't seem half bad, as this boss basically goes down and out. God damn, took his tongue clean out. That was another straightforward fight though. Couple of ninja coins, and then we get what rank? Let's have Gander. B rank, okay. Yeah, team both, team both. And then we move on to the Kitsune, which, again, we're going to go into our tried and tested combo of the Kage Hiroko, the Bloodbind, and Square is our best friend. And just like that, it's like a third of the health bar just completely taken out. Such a fantastic weapon. I'd have to say it probably is my favorite weapon of the game. The Dark Dragon Blade's probably a close second just because I think it's pretty cool design-wise. But functionality-wise, just having basically what is DMC4's like Pandora's box is sick. It obviously limited functionality, but it gets the job done. Gets the job done quite well. And this boss is almost down and out for the count. I think the second hardest boss that we've got is the Dark Dragon itself at the end. That's probably just after Achilles for me. Achilles takes first spot. Dark Dragon takes second spot. I'm not quite sure what I'd consider the third. Maybe Ryu. Ryu, surprisingly, is not that difficult. Bar the fact that he's got a move that will instantly kill you, which is annoying, but is well telegraphed. And you're going to see it in action, basically, coming up, spoiler alert. But beyond that, you can use the Kage Hiroko to basically just stun lock him, throw him against the wall. I do find it quite a cool detail that he can basically instantly charge an ultimate technique through a blood essence that he himself spawns, which is quite cool. Like, he can literally beat you to the punch, which I thought was a nice touch. And what do we get ranking-wise? We get another A rank. Okay, and then we have the Kurobo. This, I think, is the first brick wall of difficulty in this game. Or the first boss that actually gave me some form of difficulty. And my strategy for this boss really hasn't changed all too much now. It's very much a case of just chuck a bunch of shuriken in his face, have them explode, and then when the second phase turns up, it's kind of like, let's do more of the same, but jump up in midair every so often as he does his little dive bomb mechanic, which I think definitely was, at least for me, inspired by DMC5's Virgil fight, where he does that ridiculous move where he comes and Supermans you, which you can actually break him out of, which I thought was a cool touch, but I've not since found anything similar for this game, or I've not had the balls to try it, to be honest, especially not some of the harder difficulties. But on paper, this is a cool boss. We've got what I want to say is a lion with jet wings who throws up little tornadoes. It's like somebody was smoking the good stuff when they were in the office that day. But yeah, we're going to take him out nice and slow. And I think this is actually one of the only bosses that realistically has an entire chapter dedicated to himself. It makes me wonder if that was on the docket for the rest of the bosses before they were kind of just like, you know what, we'll just chuck him straight at the end of the level instead of having them be their own separate thing. But he's almost done. We've got about a quarter of health left. Really not too much of that. Was a completely wasted ultimate technique. I don't know what I was doing there. Clearly I had one too many. But we're almost done here. What I do think is quite cool is that I'm seeing a lot of people post about playing this on, or this being their first Ninja Gaiden, and this being like their first experience with the series, and playing on like hero mode and finding some of the automatic actions and stuff really good for them and their experience. I think it's something that you kind of forget about, having played these kinds of games in this genre for so long. Watching newcomers try and play for the first time and just being extremely overwhelmed by basically everything that's going on, and sort of having some of these tools basically to help guide them. And on the one hand, I understand like wanting people to experience the game for what it's supposed to be without a lot of things to lean on. But on the other hand, if it gets them playing the game, like more power to them, you know. I think it's probably a trend we're going to see more and more in action games, having like automatic or easy auto moves, easy auto modes, I should say. This was a scuffed run, yeah. C rank is kind of definitely as expected. Oh, as we get flashbanged with the old purple. Very much inspired by the Demon of Song from Dark Souls 2. This boss, if you know, you know. It's literally the only thing that I thought of. I think in that game it was a frog though, wasn't it? And in this game they're like, oh, let's put him into a shark. Generally, I'm not a fan of bosses that do this. Who like to just basically hit you with the old snatch and grab, hit and run tactics, where they come out and they're not only vulnerable for a period of time. We catch him with the ultimate technique though, just before he dives back in. And then we have the old ghost fish, the bane of my existence in some other Ninja Gaiden games. But the Kage Hidoko here comes in clutch. Not doing too much damage though at this range, which is a shame. But we're almost done. Oh, and then we get hit with a grab. Just how you know we're playing on normal. On Master Ninja, that basically would have almost instantly killed you. Don't even care at this point. I'm just throwing him in his face point blank. Right, he's going to have the phase shift here, and this is when the screen's going to go dark. We're going to pump the old PEDs, Yakumo's PEDs, and basically go to town. Yakumo's all juiced up at the minute. Damn, took me out with a swipe there. These levels here, where we're in like the club, I can't help but think of the DMC reboot. If you know, you know. I'm not sure if which one I prefer. I'm trying to see what it's saying in the background. It's just basically saying Disco Tokyo Millennium, which is interesting. But I like the fact that in the reboot, I know praise for that reboot. The levels themselves actually played into how the levels, or the actual level design played, if that makes sense, in terms of like the color coding. Horribly done in the standard game. Definitive Edition kind of fixed how that worked. But yeah, I thought that was a cool touch. What did we get here rank-wise? Another C rank, yeah, another scuffed run. And then this is, yeah, Kagachi. Dude, it's... I really need to get more acquainted with the boss's names. This dude's going to get smoked. Again, the Kage Hidoko just comes in clutch. He just gets stun locked by the Bloodband move. Slapped in there with an ultimate technique, and then before you know it, we're almost to the second phase. Kage Hidoko's supremacy. I'll not have any slander. Am I going to go for it? Wow, that actually worked. Most cases, that will just bounce straight off him. Game won't let you do that. But again, a level 2 ultimate technique, and it did that little damage. Then here we go with this, which basically requires no charge time at all, just a little bit of input and decent spacing. Do we end up getting hit with an attack here, or it might have been on another scuffed run? The amount of runs I've done of this game, just fights melding together. We do get grabbed at one point. Yeah, it is here. It's the old penetration station. That will take out a considerable amount of damage on Master Ninja mode, be careful. But we're almost done. Our Berserk gauge is filling up quite quickly too. Or it was at least. But we have not long left. He's still off in the corner just doing whatever he's doing. But yeah. What do we think was a disappointment? Do we think this boss was a disappointment? It was hyped up throughout the entire game. And then he basically ends up just kind of being a bit of a jobber. I do like the fact that he had a demon arm, or a fiend arm. I think it is a demon arm actually. Like sealed away. Thought that was a really cool touch, but he just didn't stack up. So we get another B rank there. Hashtag team both. And then here we have Achilles, the most scuffed run of this video, but it gets us the Dark Dragon Blade, and that's what we want. I think it's at the halfway point where he's going to end up doing his move where he summons everyone else in, I believe. Yeah. This is a stupid idea. You're gonna sit here and watch me just charge this up, and I'm just waiting for him to inch ever so closer. And you can probably tell by the intonation of my voice, this is not gonna go well. But hey, he seems to have, you know, missed a couple of his attacks. And there we have it. Just grabs me straight out of the attack animation. I thought that was ridiculous. And then by the time that's done, he's got a couple of his homies here coming in for the old bukkake of blades. Why couldn't they give us his scythe? You know, that's what we needed. Give us the scythe. Let us mess around with it. As I said, that was probably my favorite weapon of Ninja Gaiden 2, the scythe. I think we are getting one of the DLC. As we get grabbed again, this is real sloppy play from me. But he ends up getting his own run back, basically. But we inevitably prevail. Achilles, the #1 Minecraft fan, just throwing out a couple of cubes. And then again, he just spawns a whole lot more. I don't know what I was doing there. But he's almost down and out for the count, to be fair. Fighting on the old helipad. Oh, almost. I want to say it's coming down to the wire, but it really isn't. We've got a whole bunch of items I've still not tapped into, which I could. I end up getting sort of like debated by the red markers across the helipad, thinking that they're blood essence, but they're not. They're just lights. But it's fine, he goes down. He ends up getting destroyed. One of those sequences where, you know, you suck during the gameplay, but during the cutscenes, you're absolutely smoking them. Nice. And then we move on to everyone's favorite boss. What did we get rank-wise here? C rank? Yeah, C for scuffed. That's fair. Spelling doesn't make sense, but let's pretend it does. Then we have Ryu here. And I've been seeing a lot of discussion between, like, who's the stronger protagonist, or who's the better protagonist, or the better ninja. I'm still Team Ryu. Like, obviously, he tests Yakumo right at the end of the game. I think that much is clear. And it does look like, you know, Ryu's almost bested in that moment, but, you know, he seems quite calm and serene, and Yakumo's very much out of breath and ragged at the end of that encounter. I honestly don't think Ryu was probably going for the kill there as well. Unless, you know, he hates Sayori. Maybe he just wanted to just forego her final wish and just wanted to cook Yakumo just for the fun of it, but he's getting pretty washed here, I'm not gonna lie. Just bouncing his dome straight off that wall. And I get tagged by the Nimpo there. Which isn't too bad. He's just out here hitting his ultimate technique on no one. Casper the friendly ghost, you know. He's shadowboxing in the corner, let's say. And then he uses the old Phoenix, which I thought was an interesting touch. I don't know who they modeled this Ryu off of. I don't know if they even have seen anybody try and play Ryu from previous games, but this very much is like a much more tame version of him. But you can't be too careful. He's going to pull out his old run ender quite soon, which is there. I was contemplating restarting there at that point because I was just like, you motherfucker, I can't believe it. And then we end up doing him in, basically. He's fine. Kage Hiroko putting in the work. He's almost done, and then, for good measure, we hit him with this move. Interestingly enough, you obviously don't get an obliteration technique, because they can't have us, well, they can't have Ryu getting just absolutely cooked in a cutscene. It goes straight to just a can animation, which I thought was funny, but out of nowhere we end up getting an S rank on that. Definitely not S rank, triple S rank of that, sorry. Gameplay, but we take those. And then here we have the Dark Dragon itself. Why this wasn't an unlockable costume in-game, I genuinely don't know. Team Ninja, Microsoft were... I don't know. Must have been an off day in the office, we'll say that. But yeah, Phase 1, do what you normally do. Phase 2, that's when he starts using his laser beam of death move. He starts getting a bit cheeky with what he does, but it's fine. We're lucky he's not doing the same tactics to us, just unlocking us to death. And here we go. Good old Zenkai boost. I'm trying to knock him out of it, which we successfully do there. We go for the flying swallow is a bit of a stupid thing to do. Oof. It was actually a pretty good chunk of damage. That would have insta-killed us on Master Ninja. Oh, and we get him. Knock him out of it just in time. What do we think of this as a final boss, though? Up there with the other Ninja Gaidens? Is this your favorite? Do you think this is the bottom? I'm curious to know. I do really like the sequence after this, where you're in the credits, and it's like the first time in-game that you see such a clear blue sky that's not overcast, it's not nighttime. I thought that was a really cool touch. Playing with the music as well is very reminiscent of DMC, especially when you're facing off against the enemies too. But I do find it funny how we're using the Dark Dragon Blade in the cutscene here, but it's not like we actually have access to it. But after this, I do believe we technically do unlock it, which is cool. What do we get rank-wise here? Is this going to be? Yeah, this is going to be an A rank. Even though we used a bunch of items there, which is quite funny. And that's going to get us the Wielder of Darkness, the Dark Dragon Blade itself. But we still have technically one more boss trial to take out. And this is Oniwaka, the dude who gets more and more corrupt as you find him throughout the game. Not quite sure if there's any lore. Well, I guess there are some tidbits of lore based on the mission briefings that you can find at the shrines, but much like a lot of the humanoid bosses in this game, he can get absolutely stun-locked and basically trivialize him. But again, like, this would have been really cool to have as like a costume. Maybe not literally Oniwaka's character model, but just like this corrupted miasma with the red eyes, you know? Would have been really cool. But alas, it was not to be. He hits the old to even go... Oh, dude, I butchered that quote. To go even further beyond. And then he whips out the old doppelganger. Playing too much DMC3, clearly, for him. But considering everything else we faced, this guy's kind of almost chump change, so we'll prevail. There isn't much that you get from doing this. You do get, I think, technically an accessory or an item, so there is an incentive to do so as we hit the old berserk. And we get the parry there, and we almost get cooked in the process. And that move does almost no damage, which just brings a tear to my eye in a bad way. And then we stun lock him. It's not long before he's basically done. Oh, coming down to the wire here, right? Completely missed with a flying swallow, but he's down and out for the count. That's basically going to take us right to the very end of the boss trials as we split this man in twain. As we get the rank here and the Hayabusa texts. Well, it has been me, DevilNeverCry. I'd like to thank all of you for watching, and as always, I'll see you all next video.